Well, the University of Minnesota has been in existence for a century and a half and just recently inaugurated its 17th president. That president also happens to be the first female to lead the state's largest university. This week, she is spending time touring the UMD campus to help chart the future of the U of M system. And so joining us now is Joan Gabel, president of the University of Minnesota system, and Lindley Black is chancellor of the University of Minnesota-Duluth. And I want to thank both of you for being here with us tonight. Madam President, what are your goals as you tour UMD, and what major challenge maybe do you see lying ahead for this campus?
Well, I think we're leaning much more into opportunity than challenge. I see so many wonderful things happening both on the campus and in the campus partnership with the community. The goals for visiting in Duluth and for visiting all of the system campuses, including the time we spend in the cities, is to really understand how the University of Minnesota writ large can have an impact on the state, how it can fulfill its mission to serve students, to engage in discovery and outreach and engagement, how it can be good stewards of its constrained resources and make sure that it has maximum opportunity for everyone who makes the investment in the place. But the way in which each campus goes about doing those things varies, and so we want to spend time on each campus so we really understand its signature, and Duluth has one, and it's really wonderful, and I'm enjoying learning more about it.
Chancellor Black, I imagine this is a great opportunity for you to try to show UMD in its finest light. What are the things that you want the new president to know and see and understand about UMD?
Well, there are many things, and we've had a very busy 2 days, but we have been able to tour her around to many different academic areas that feature our students as well as our faculty and staff, and so giving her a sense of the depth and breadth of our teaching, our research, and also how we connect with community in many different ways. So it's a great opportunity for us to showcase that. But so it helps our new president understand us, but it also helps us understand ourselves.
Sure.
When you put together presentations, when you think about, okay, what are some of our signature programs, or what are some things that we most want her to know about, it's a good reflection for us and helps us better appreciate.
So President Gabel, do you plan to spend time on the outstate campuses fairly often? How often, for example, might you come up to Duluth?
Well, we don't have a set schedule, and that's really by design, because we want to be able to be nimble when something's happening, when there's a good event. We want to come as things percolate up. But if there isn't something specific that calls us up, we would expect to be up here at least a few times a semester. This is my 4th trip up myself, so regularly, but not on a strict timeline.
You mentioned that UMD has a signature, and that it's very distinctive. What do you see that signature being?
Well, it's really made up of a component, or several components that come together in this really lovely and special way. So you have a very ideal size for a certain type of student who is looking for breadth of programs and options, but also wants to have a deeply personal relationship with the faculty and staff and the ability to engage in the community. So I myself went to a tiny undergraduate institution, only 1,100 students. I now work at an institution, and the campus where I sit for the better part of my time has 55,000 students, and it's a different kind of experience. So having around 11,000 students is right in the middle, and it gives a certain type of opportunity. The research questions that come out of this part of the state are interesting and important, and the Duluth campus is able to serve those research questions, but those research questions are not only for Duluth, they're inspired by Duluth, and they come up out of this area of the state and the Iron Range and greater Minnesota in general, but things relating to fresh water, things relating to forestry, things relating to the supply chain associated with the ports, things related to our relationship with our tribal partners that are concentrated in this part of the state, are inspired here and come up here, but impact statewide and arguably the world.
So it sounds to me that you don't want to change the Duluth campus, but perhaps enhance it?
Exactly, and even that, I would say, sometimes facilitate it and let it do what it does well, figure out how to get it what it needs to do those things well, and then get out of the way.
Chancellor Black, are there budgetary messages that you want to make sure are clear to President Gabel?
Well, absolutely, and we've had substantive conversations about those. As you all know, we've continued, as most institutions are right now, to struggle with how we match expenses and revenues. But I'm excited about the President's new perspectives on those, and my senior team and I are working very hard to come up with solutions sooner rather than later. And I'm very optimistic about us being able to do that and still maintain the outstanding quality that we have at UMD.
A slight decrease in enrollment at UMD. Any ideas on how you might uptick that a little bit?
Yeah, several ideas. First of all, we're working in a very focused way on retention of our students, because once we work very hard to get students here, we want to keep them here. We want them to do well. We want them to graduate in a timely manner. So retention is a big focus, and our recruitment of students continues to get more complex, more focused, because we still think we're the institution of choice for many students, not only in Minnesota but throughout this part of the upper Midwest. And even though we've had a slight decrease, if you look at what many of our competing institutions are facing, we're actually doing very well.
President Gabel, some people do feel that UMD gets a little bit shortchanged in the funding. Do you believe that there's a need to maybe better balance how those university resources are allocated so that it's a little bit more of an even playing field, even in terms of the per pupil funding?
Yes, I think that it's time for us to refresh what we would call resource allocation modeling that we do system-wide. We use a model that was put into place over a decade ago, and it was leading edge at the time, and actually there are aspects of it now that there are still institutions with whom we compete that are trying to catch up to the thinking and philosophies that went behind it. But for us as an institution, a lot of things have changed in that period of time, and I really do think it's time to refresh. I think it's very important that in constrained resource environments that you align resources and the decisions about how you allocate them with incentives and what it is you're asking your leadership and everyone who reports to them to do. And so we're in the middle of doing system-wide strategic planning, and we think that the resource allocation model should align with that.
If you could address the Minnesota legislature tomorrow, what would you tell them you need?
A lot more money. What we need is a continuation of the partnership that we have. They are supporters of education, and I still have some objectivity about this. Being a relatively recent arrival, the state of Minnesota believes in education, K through 20, pre-K through 20. The governor campaigned on that platform, as did legislators from both parties and both sides of the legislature. And so the idea philosophically of the importance and impact and the economic driver that the university is not up for debate, but it does require resources. We think it's a very good investment, and we would like to see them invest.
Do you feel that technology has kind of changed the opportunity to present higher education to students, and if so, what benefits are they receiving from it?
Well, course content delivery has changed dramatically in the time, and I taught online early in the late 90s when we coded it ourselves, and it was a scrolling chat, which I don't even think most of our students even know what that is anymore. So what it does now is it allows us to deliver content to students in ways that are very convenient for them. It allows us to do some boutique content delivery that would otherwise be too expensive, and it allows us to open up some bottlenecks sometimes when we have scheduling constraints and we can leverage technology. But technology also helps us identify potential students. It's helping us identify which students need more resources in terms of advising, sometimes even mental health, which is something that we're talking about a lot. It helps us figure out how to get the message out for branding and recruitment purposes. So our world has been infused with technology in a lot of different ways.
You have a good point. How do you get that message out?
Well, we have an entire team devoted to branding and what we would call broadly university relations. So in some ways we do it just like any other company would, even though we're not a company. But we also have this really beautiful thing, which is alumni. And even if you didn't go to school here, chances are you know someone who did, your child did, a sibling did. It's that kind of thing in different regions of the state, and then of course statewide. It's one of the best parts of my job is meeting people who multi-generationally have been positively impacted by educational experiences across the system, and we count on them a lot. They're our grassroots voice.
Speaking of technology, the opening of the Heikela Chemistry and Advanced Material Science building was this year. Is that one of the things that you wanted to show off in this trip?
Oh, absolutely. Well, fortunately, the president was able to come up for the grand opening. So she had already seen it. She took a tour and was part of the celebration of the building. but we've continued to talk with her about the positive impact it's having on our students and our faculty. It really is a gem. We worked on it for many years to get it here and appreciated the support from the legislature as well as from our system leadership to make it a reality.
President Gabel, we were guilty of this, but you must be a little bit tired of always being introduced as the first woman to hold this position. What significance do you attach to the historic nature of that appointment?
Well, it is, I'm not tired of it. I'm honored by it, and so I'm glad to talk about it. Although I must admit, I struggle with the conversation, and I've said this a couple of times in the past, because I do see the historical significance and want to be a contributor to what that means for the campus community and the state, for young girls, really for anybody who doesn't see themselves reflected in an opportunity that they hope to attain. But I also can only speak from my own life experience, and I've always been a woman, and so I can't really compare my experience against anyone's but my own. And I have felt nothing but a warm Minnesota welcome and a lot of appreciation for being willing to take on the mantle of a large, complex organization. And what I hope is that shortly after we get going, which we're sort of, this is a big part of that, is being here, that the work speaks for itself, and that the state feels confidence in the administrative and academic leadership of the institution, that parents want to send their students there, the legislature's happy, the media is happy, we're making good discoveries, we're curing disease, we're solving problems, and it fades. That, I think that would be a good outcome.
It sounds like you have a lot of people that you have to make happy.
That's true.
Let's talk about some of the research that's going on in the University of Minnesota. Certainly health research. I think the campus in Rochester is enjoying a program of health research. Talk to us a little bit about the research going on at the U.
Well, the University of Minnesota system in the aggregate did just about $1 billion of research last year. That puts us in the top 10 nationally and puts us in very good company. And that research portfolio is as wide and diverse as all of the different programs we offer. But there are some areas of excellence that we consider signatures. Not that other things that we do aren't important, but there's aggregated work around things like water that you see largely coming out of this campus here in Duluth, but in really wonderful interdisciplinary partnership. We have research around food and agriculture and food as health, food, the impact of food, how water affects food. I could go on, that originate out of the land grant mission and people think of as cornerstone to the CFANS College, which is in the cities, but is also done through extension, which is in every county in the state, and is addressed and touched by a variety of programs like our American Indian Studies program here in Duluth, which is in CLA. So that would be something that we look at broadly. Of course, health sciences. We train most of the clinicians in this state, and we are constantly looking for better ways to train them. But we're also looking for cures and technologies that lead to cures, and that happens on every single campus in different ways. And I could go on from there. The way in which we serve the state is sometimes in this very kind of wonky, research-based impact, but when you really think about what that impact leads to, that if you're sick, if you want to be healthy, if you want to have a high quality of life in every way that happens, we're there.
And with that, we have to say thank you. Thank you both for being here. Very fascinating. We can go on for a long time, but we'll have you back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Very glad to be
Always a
here.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.